Presbyter in the New Testament refers to a leader in local Christian congregations, with presbyter being from the Greek presbyteros, meaning elder, senior, and episkopos meaning overseer, referring exclusively to the office of bishop, but with presbyteros being understood by many as referring to the same person functioning as overseer. In modern Catholic and Orthodox usage, presbyter is distinct from bishop and synonymous with priest. However, in predominant Protestant usage, the term is not seen as referring to a member of a distinctive priesthood called priests, but instead terms such as minister, pastor and elder are used. Etymology. The word presbyter etymologically derives from Greek pyro epsilon sigma beta upsilon tau epsilon rho omicron sigma, the comparative form of pyro epsilon sigma beta upsilon sigma, old man. However, while the English word priest has presbyter as the etymological origin, the distinctive Greek word for priest is never used for presbyteros, episkopos in the New Testament, except as being part of the general priesthood of all believers, with the first Christians making a distinction between sacerdotal Jewish and pagan priests and New Testament pastors. History. The earliest organization of the Church in Jerusalem was, according to most scholars, similar to that of Jewish synagogues, but it had a council, a college of ordained presbyters. In Acts chapter 11 verse 30 and Acts chapter 15 verse 22, we see a collegiate system of government in Jerusalem, though headed by James, according to tradition, the first bishop of the city. In Acts chapter 14 verse 23, the Apostle Paul ordains presbyters in the churches he founded. The term presbyter was often not yet clearly distinguished from the term overseer, as in Acts chapter 20 verse 17, Titus chapter 1 verses 5 to 7 and 1 Peter chapter 5 verse 1. The earliest writings of the Apostolic Fathers, the Didache and the First Epistle of Clement, for example, show the Church used two terms for local church offices, presbyters and deacon. In Timothy and Titus in the New Testament a more clearly defined episcopate can be seen. We are told that Paul had left Timothy in Ephesus and Titus in Crete to oversee the local church. Paul commands them to ordain presbyters, bishops, and to exercise general oversight, telling Titus to rebuke with all authority. Early sources are not clear, but various groups of Christian communities would have had a group of college of presbyter overseers functioning as leaders of the local churches. Eventually the head or monarchic bishop came to rule more clearly, and all local churches would eventually follow the example of the other churches and structure themselves after the model of the others, with the one bishop in clearer charge. Though the role of the body of priests remained important, from the 2nd century, it is certain that the offices of bishop and presbyter were clearly distinguished. The bishop was understood as the president of the council of presbyters, and so the bishop was distinguished both in honor and in prerogative from the presbyters, who were seen as deriving their authority by means of delegation from the bishop. Each episcopal see had its own bishop, and his presence was necessary to consecrate any gathering of the church. Eventually, as Christendom grew, individual congregations were no longer directly served by a bishop. The bishop in a large city would appoint a priest to pastor the flock in each congregation, acting as his delegate. The 4th century scholar Jerome stated, "Therefore a presbyter is the same as a bishop is," and before that by the instigation of the devil emulations in respect to religion arose, and people began to say, "I am of Paul, and I of Apollos, and I of Cephas." The churches were governed by the common council of the presbyters. But, after that each one was accustomed to regard those whom he had baptized as his own disciples and not of Christ, it was decreed in the whole world that one chosen from among the presbyters should be placed over the others. Therefore, as presbyters may know that by the custom of the church they are subject to the one who has been placed over them, so also bishops may understand that they are greater than presbyters more by custom than by the veritable ordinance of the Lord. Slightly different other versions express the same. A Catholic explanation suggests that the delegates were bishops in the actual sense of the term, but that they did not possess fixed sees nor had they a special title. Since they were essentially itinerant, they confided to the care of some of the better educated and highly respected converts the fixed necessary functions relating to the daily life of the community. Along with this was the title priest, being distinctively ascribed to presbyters, bishops. Catholic writer Greg Hughes in Catholic Customs and Amp Traditions explains that priesthood as we know it in the Catholic Church was unheard of during the first generation of Christianity, because at the time priesthood was still associated with animal sacrifices in both the Jewish and pagan religions. Quote, when the Eucharist came to be regarded as a sacrifice, the role of the bishop took on a priestly dimension. By the 3rd century, bishops were considered priests. Presbyters, or elders, sometimes substituted for the bishop at the Eucharist. By the end of the 3rd century, people all over were using the title priest for whoever presided at the Eucharist. Modern usage. See also priesthood, Presbyterianism, Methodism, Holy Orders, the Roman Catholic Church, the Orthodox Church, the non-Chalcedonian churches and similar groups typically refer to presbyters in English as priests. Collectively, however, their college is referred to as the presbyterium, presbytery, or presbyterate. This usage is seen by most Protestant Christians as stripping the laity of its priestly status, while those who use the term defend its usage by saying that, while they do believe in the priesthood of all believers, they do not believe in the eldership of all believers. This is generally true of United Methodists, who ordain elders as clergy while affirming the priesthood of all believers. The Evangelical Anglican Diocese of Sydney has abolished the use of the word priest for those ordained as such. They are now referred to as presbyters. Presbyterians sometimes refer to the ruling elders and teaching elders as presbyters. The website of the International Standard Version of the Bible, a Protestant translation, responds to a criticism of its use of elder over priest by stating, no Greek lexicons or other scholarly sources suggest that presbyteros means priest instead of elder. The Greek word is equivalent to the Hebrew zakin, which means elder and not priest. You can see the zakinim described in Exodus chapter 18 verses 21 to 22 using some of the same equivalent Hebrew terms as Paul uses in the GK of 1 and Amp 2 Timothy and Titus. Note that the zakinim are not priests but are rather men of distinctive maturity that qualifies them for ministerial roles among the people. Therefore the anti-equivalent of the zakinim cannot be the Levitical priests. The Greek presbyteros thus describes the character qualities of the episkopos. The term elder would therefore appear to describe the character, while the term overseer connotes the job description.